All right, the time is 2 p.m., so I will call the Tuesday, March 12th, 2024 regular council meeting to order and begin with the land acknowledgement that the City of Fort Saskatchewan is located within Treaty 6 territory and Métis Nation of Alberta District 11, the ancestral and traditional territory of the Nihilwak, Dene, Blackfoot, Saulteaux, Nakota Sioux, and Métis, and we acknowledge the many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit whose footsteps have marked these lands for generations. It is because of our treaty relationship that we can live, work, and play on Treaty 6 territory. And today we do have a few guests in our audience, so as housekeeping, in case the emergency alarms happen to go off, please follow our staff out to the exit that way, or if that's blocked, we have an exit out this way. Just follow us. We will get you to safety. All right. Thank you. And they will get you to a muster point. So with that, we have nothing on consent agenda today, so I will ask for an approval of the February 27th, 2024 regular council meeting minutes. Councillor Abatoye.
Thank you. I'll make a motion that council approves the February 27th regular council meeting minutes as presented and circulated.
Thank you. Are there any errors or omissions? Not seeing anybody calling in. I will close the motion. Please cast your vote. And that is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. And I'll ask if there are any delegations in our audience that wish to speak to anything that is not part of a public hearing, which is pretty limited, the land sale. Not seeing anybody racing up here. Nobody has pre-registered. We will move on to the public hearing. So I will invite Taryn and Craig to join us. I only have one name on there. So the process for the public hearing is once I call the public hearing to order, administration will give us a presentation providing us information. Following that, council will have an opportunity to ask questions. After questions have been dealt with, then we will ask them to step to the side and have anybody who wishes to come and speak in favor or opposed, and those who are registered will have the opportunity to come first. Council will have an opportunity to ask any individuals if they have any questions, no discussion or debate, just clarifying questions. And once that is concluded, administration will come back. If there's no additional questions, then I will close the public hearing and we will go to business arising from the public hearing. So with that, it is 2:03 and I will open the public hearing for bylaw C1-24. Welcome, Taryn.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Your Worship and members of council. My name is Taryn Samra. I'm a planner here with the city, and I would like to present a brief summary of bylaw C1-24 to amend the West Park Area Structure Plan, an amendment to the Forest Ridge Outline Plan, and bylaw C2-24 to amend the Land Use Bylaw. These three applications are being presented together as the applications are being processed concurrently. In the council package, a technical report was included to provide detailed analysis of the amendments and justification. To begin, in October of 2023, Davis Consulting Group, on behalf of the West Park Land Company, approached administration regarding their next stage of development in Forest Ridge. They proposed a mix of different housing types, which includes standard size, single detached and semi-detached dwellings. They also proposed a unique housing product not seen in Fort Saskatchewan. This would be multi-attached townhouses and semi-detached houses on compact narrow lots. An example of the townhouse product can be seen on the screen. The characteristics that make this housing product unique is the additional building height, reduced site depth, reduced site widths, and the reduced minimum parking requirement for two-story developments. This unique housing development would be accessed by a lane and can accommodate rear attached or rear detached garages. To accommodate this proposed development, the standard single detached and semi-detached dwellings could be developed by the RC District. The RC District is a standard district within the land use bylaw and commonly used for single detached, semi-detached, and multi-attached dwellings. But what about the proposed housing project on compact narrow lots? The current RC District can't accommodate this new unique product due to the RC regulations. As you remember, this housing product is unique and new, unseen in Fort Saskatchewan, which also means other districts within the land use bylaw can't accommodate those as those regulations wouldn't allow the product to be developed. Therefore, a new special district is proposed called the FRSO Forest Ridge Street Oriented Residential District. This district would be used only to accommodate this new unique housing product and would only be used in Forest Ridge. As for location, the single detached and semi-detached product would be accommodated by the RC District, which will be developed as per the areas highlighted in blue. The new FRSO housing product would only apply to the areas shown in yellow. The remaining undeveloped areas would be classified as urban reserve until an appropriate district for development is required. To move forward with the proposed district and redistricting of the lands in Forest Ridge, the land use bylaw must be amended. However, before moving forward with the amendment to the land use bylaw, it must be considered if the amendment conforms with other planning documents. In this case, does it conform with the West Park Area Structure Plan and the Forest Ridge Outline Plan? These planning documents must be amended before the land use bylaw. We'll first start with the West Park Area Structure Plan. The purpose of the amendment to the West Park Area Structure Plan is to allow for replication and to create flexibility for development of the proposed district. With speaking with the developer, the FRSO housing product may come forward to administration again to be developed. Therefore, amending the specific area within the ASP allows for replication and flexibility. Next would be an amendment to the outline plan. Similar to the West Park Area Structure Plan, the purpose of the outline plan amendment is to provide flexibility for the proposed district. As the outlines plan purpose is to articulate finer grained detail such as block configuration, road, and lane locations. If the developer decides to develop more townhouses, an amendment to the outline plan is required, as it must be shown at the block level on the outline plan the location of the townhouse product. As for reference, the proposed outline plan map on the screen shows the location of the proposed 2-story and 3-story townhouses. Please note that the outline plan amendments are decided by council resolution rather than by bylaw. At first reading, council provided comments regarding the proposed district. Administration would like to provide clarifying information for the following. First is secondary suites. The proposed district does not allow for secondary suites. Second is dwelling width. Dwelling widths within the proposed district will be no less than 3.6 meters. We'll discuss a little more about this in the next slide. Third is ownership maintenance. Owners of a semi-detached or multi-attached dwelling have the right to change their appearance of a building or the roof. And last is scale and transition. The image below shows a spectrum of the missing middle housing, which includes townhouses. The proposed townhouses are considered to be scale appropriate and compatible with single detached dwellings in a low density residential setting. As for transition, the proposed FRSO dwellings or townhouses are lane accessed, which would be adjacent to lane accessed dwellings at the rear. This distance between the buildings, including the lane, is sufficient to mitigate any massing or shadowing issues. As mentioned in the previous slide, I want to discuss a little more about the dwelling width. As per the image on the screen, the minimum dwelling width is 3.6 meters for internal and end units. At first reading, the minimum dwelling unit presented was 2.4 meters for the end unit. This number has been increased. Please note the intent was never for a dwelling unit to be less than 3.6 meters. Next, to ensure that dwelling units meet the minimum width requirement, a fundamental use provision was added to the proposed district. The provision mentions that no dwelling unit will be less than 3.6 meters. This change was made after first reading was given, therefore an amendment to bylaw C2-24 is required. Based on the details of the proposed district, administration supports the 3 amendment applications due to the policies of the Municipal Development Plan and the West Park Area Structure Plan. The proposed special district demonstrates and aligns with the Municipal Development Plan's policies through site design and street-oriented development, and through affordable, inclusive, and housing diversity for all residents. The proposed special district also aligns with the West Park Area Structure Plan by providing a variety of lot sizes and housing forms, which provide choice for residents in the community and are compatible with existing and proposed surrounding development. Following first reading, public hearing was advertised in the Fort Record for 2 consecutive weeks. Notices were mailed out to the property owners within 100 meters of the amendment areas. Notice of the proposed bylaw was posted on the city's website and social media accounts, and no responses were received. And at this time, I'd like to answer any questions that council may have for administration.
All right, thank you very much. And I'll just remind council it is a public hearing, so it is only clarifying questions. Councillor Kelly?
Yes, thank you. I note the change for the perhaps clarification on the 3.6 meter, but you refer to dwelling width. Is that the lot width? Is that the outside wall to outside wall width, or is that interior wall to interior wall width? What exactly, please, is the does the 3.6 meters refer to?
Through your worship to Councillor Kelly, it would be like building pocket. It'd be referred to as building. You can refer to it as building pocket.
So I could refer to it as, in the case of the 3-story, for instance, the lot width.
For the interior units, the minimum would be, say, 3.6 meters. So you can refer to that as the lot width as the dwelling width. But for the end units, because a side yard is required, the dwelling unit would be 3.6 meters, but your site width would include the side yard measurement, which is 1.2. So your site width would be 4.8 meters.
Thank you. Now, is this particular area of West Park within the current fire department 10-minute response time?
Through your worship, Councillor Kelly, I'd have to check specifically. I don't know off the top of my head, so that would be something I would need to get back to you. I can check and come back with that information later on.
Does the fire department not review these things as a matter of course?
Through your worship, Councillor Kelly, typically, yes, they would be. It was referred in this particular case, if it would be, say, outside of that 10-minute response time, it could still be built with the setbacks. However, the construction would change. So this would dictate the type of exterior finishes, the amount of windows or openings on the side of the building, and that sort of thing. So it could be done. It would just change the construction of the building itself.
So did I just understand you, Mr. Thomas, to say that you believe it to be outside the 10-minute response time?
Councillor Kelly, I'd have to confirm that. I wouldn't say it is or it is not at this point.
Okay.
Have these issues been... Well, just 1 second, please, Mayor Ketcher, and then I'll conclude for now. Have these issues been discussed with the developer?
Through you, Mayor Ketcher, could you repeat the question?
As the 10-minute response time for the fire department, the potential issues there, have those been discussed with the developer?
Through your worship, Councillor Kelly, I don't believe that they have specifically to this, but again, that's something I would have to confirm.
Thank you.
Okay, if there's a round 2, I can put you on for that. Councillor Blizzard, you're next.
I guess my biggest concern is the 11-foot wide places. So
Question?
my questions will be towards that end. So first of all, for those townhouse 3-story units, the picture that we're showing was in the presentation. It shows 4, so 2 in the middle, 2 end units. Is that the plan, or is there going to be a whole row of 15 of them, or whatever the number allows, and then just 2 end units?
Through your worship, the council it would be a maximum of 4. So you have 2 end and 2 in the middle.
Always, there won't be more than that.
You could have more 4 units, like you'd have 4
Right,
set of
but
4, a set of 4.
It's not going to be like 15 units.
Yeah,
Okay.
it won't be like
Okay.
1,000 or anything like that.
And for now, anyways, how many people live 100 meters from this area? Because I think a lot of it's undeveloped. So, or whatever, is it 100 meters? Whatever the distance is for notifying. Like, how many houses that have people living in them actually got a notice?
Through your worship, the council, I can't remember off the top of my head the amount of letters that were sent. I'd have to double check that. If I could take it was around 90, I want to say.
So there's quite a few living in the area, but looks like across the street there's no one. So most of them aren't going to be affected by this.
Yeah, through your ship customer, definitely adjacent to the new townhouse product, but across the street where you had the RC district, I could actually show it on the map here. Along Willow Link, a lot of those houses were
built already. Okay.
Yeah, they're already built. So
this,
a lot of those.
This 3-story townhouse is a little bit removed, I guess. So the notification was mainly because of the distance to the other one, right?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, and that's my 2 for now. I guess I'll be back.
Well, you're at 3. I can put you on for round 2. Councillor Macon?
Thanks for your presentation. Just a quick question. Can you just confirm that regulations on carriageway and parking haven't been reduced for this development?
Through your worship, Councillor Macon, can you explain the question a little more? I just don't understand.
With these high density areas, we've had issues in other areas. And so I know that we've worked hard to develop with better practices. And I just wanted to confirm that we haven't reduced that in any way, and that the parking expectations and the wider carriage expectations haven't changed.
I could probably speak on some of those. I'd probably have to refer to Mr. Thomas for the rest of them. As for parking, we did say parking has been reduced for the 2-story development. So throughout the land use bylaw for a residential dwelling, you're required to provide 2 parking stalls. In this case, it's 1 for the 2-story product. As for the carriageway, I'm not too sure on that question though.
Through your worship to Councillor Macon, so no, the carriageway has not been reduced. But and I think the applicant's probably going to speak to the parking, specifically about the properties across the street where there would be front attached garages and spaces between the driveways.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm next in the speaking order. So what I heard you say is this is new and unique, but I guess the question that I have is when I drive around like Sienna and out in that area, there's a lot of townhouses. I don't know if there's any 3-story ones, but is the uniqueness because it's 3-story?
Your worship, I can give a couple of reasons why it's unique. First is the site width, or dwelling widths in this case. It's much reduced than the one, say, on Allard Way or in Sienna, as you mentioned. So the site width is one. Another one is, as for the 3-story, we do have some along 94th Street. I believe it's beside the Heartland Housing new building that went up. Those are similar to the 3-story product that would be shown here in Forest Ridge as well. But mainly it would be the site widths have been reduced quite a bit, and the site depths.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then just the last question. So I know there's a new development going up just down from Friesens. You can see it off the highway. Apartments, condos, and because those are 3-story, I can see them off the highway. So what's the difference between them and this even?
Your worship, are you referring to, I'm unsure which product you're referring to adjacent to Friesen UM?
Your worship, that particular development is a little bit different. This particular application that's before council today, they're going to be developed on fee simple lots, whereas that one that you're referring to It's one site that will be condominiumized. So there's clusters of buildings that's located on one large lot. They are a different design and they would look a little bit different. These are a little bit more street oriented. So the design and the character would be different than those ones being developed.
Okay, and I only asked that question because when I look at it from the back, because I drove in there to see what it was, and they look similar from the back. So that's why I was wondering, is it truly unique or is it just, so it's because they're going to be condos? Okay. Okay, good. Thank you. Councillor Nguyen?
Yeah, thanks for the presentation. Excuse me. Given that these are fee simple, we have architectural guidelines for design of various types of products in neighborhoods. I wanted to revisit this topic of, in 20, 25 years, when an owner decides that they want to replace their shingles and the adjacent owner decides that it's not time to do that yet, with perhaps roofing, siding, somebody wants to do a brick facade, etc. What do we have, and what provisions do we have in place to prevent a sort of mosaic of different types of looking structures happening?
The Your Worship, Councillor, there wouldn't be anything preventing someone from, as I mentioned, changing the siding of their building or anything like that to be something different.
Right. So So to me, that creates a complexity when.
Through a question, not debate.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Maybe. I'll save that for later then. But thanks for
Your Worship. Maybe I could just add to Taryn's response. It would be not unlike. I mean, it's pretty typical that we have semi-detached or side-by-side duplexes. There is a shared responsibility among the owners that own those units, and typically you would not see, say the roof gets replaced with brown shingles and the other one's going to get replaced with black. I mean, there is some coordination typically there, similar with siding, or if somebody builds a fence, that sort of thing. So it is something that goes with the type of ownership arrangement. There are instruments that could be done outside of our control, which would be more of a title instrument. There could be things like restricted covenant and design requirements. The applicant could probably speak to that a little bit more, but typically, there is a sense of pride of ownership and that sort of thing. So these are typically not problematic.
Okay. Appreciate that. Thanks.
You're good. Councillor Abatoye, you're next.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. My first question is around the motion 3D. So it talks about, revising the land use statistics and population calculation. So I'm just wondering how has this change or amendments changing the population calculations? It is so confusing for me, so I wanted a little clarity on that. Is my question clear? Okay, perfect.
The Your Worship, Councillor Abatoye, I think I understand it, so I'll give it a try. If not, I'm pretty sure Mr. Thomas can definitely add to it. The way the population statistics, it would increase because you are increasing density, right? Sorry, what was the rest of your question?
So, okay, because so how's this amendment, or how's this new buildings that we're going to be putting into that area, how's it changing the population calculation? So are we assuming that people are going to move into the city, so it's going to change the population, or does that have to do with our, for example, density, what's it called, the net, that's what's that number?
Density target?
Yeah, the density target. That's kind of what I was thinking in my head when I saw that. So is that what that is, or is that just,
Through Your Worship, Councillor Abatoye, yes, basically what was originally contemplated for this area was not this type of development. So that's why we're going through this particular process. It does add some density to the neighborhood. And that's specifically why the outline plan statistics have to be changed. So the dwelling count number is going to go up, and the density is going to be slightly higher as a result.
Okay, All right, thank you. And then my second question is about this new type of building. So do we know what the uptake has been like in other communities that have it, and what kind of challenges? I guess that's going to be a question to the developers when they come. But I'm just wondering, like from the city's perspective, have you been able to get that information, what the uptake has been like, if and what kind of challenges they might have had as a result of this building?
Through your worship to Councillor Abatoye, not specifically. I do know that the applicant is going to speak to that. From our perspective, we're looking at it, and we ground our support and recommendation based on the community interest, which is really articulated in our statutory planning documents and our municipal development plan. It does give support for a variety of housing types. And this particular application, while it doesn't fit the exact mold of townhousing that we allow in other districts, it's unique because it does provide a little bit of flexibility and a different housing model that I think would be acceptable in the community.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. I'll go back to you, Councillor Kelly. Run round two.
Yes, thank you. Probably Mr. Thomas, the introductory comments, you mentioned briefly the missing middle concept. I'd like to explore that a little bit. So the stats that you present in one section of your report talk about Fort Saskatchewan being townhouses making up 5.1%, while the Alberta average is 8.1%. Does the Alberta average include the cities of Calgary and Edmonton?
Through your worship to Councillor Kelly, yes, and that's a very fair comment. And a couple of points there. It would also include, I guess, the smaller towns and the rurals and places that wouldn't typically have townhouses. For example, Strathcona County outside of Sherwood Park would have about 90 or 95% single detached housing. So that is all built into the mix. It's a fair point because I think doing an apples to apples comparison, if we're comparing it to the rest of Alberta, it might not exactly be accurate. We did do some analysis or comparison with, say, the rest of the region, taking Edmonton out of the equation. And the finding was that based on that, and every municipality is going to be a little bit different, but based on that, we're sitting at about 5%. But the rest of the region, excluding Edmonton, would be at 9% for townhousing. Every community is going to be a little bit different. On the lower end would be about 5%, though. Comparable cities of our size would be around probably 7 to 9%.
Would in your opinion, Mr. Thomas, would those percentages be influenced by the nature of the community? For instance, I consider Fort Saskatchewan to be a rural city, if that makes sense, as opposed to perhaps Spruce Grove, which I think is attached rather firmly to the hip of Edmonton. So, and I mean no disrespect when I say that, obviously. So, is it possible that 5% is actually the sweet spot for the city of Fort Saskatchewan?
Through your worship, Councillor Kelly, it's a good question. And again, similar to my response to Councillor Abatoye, the city is unique and it's different, and we've developed our policies based on what we believe to be the public interest. We ground our recommendations and our support for applications based on our policies that are set out within our statutory plans. Through that process, we did hear fairly loud and clear that that people do want choice and variety of housing. So we want to make sure that we are providing that choice and variety for a number of reasons. Townhousing and houses that would fall between apartment buildings and single detached housing provide a the opportunity for people to be more engaged in their community, provides for affordable housing options. It also provides a diversity of people, and certainly our community is very diverse because of the type of community we are, with a diverse economic, with our heavy industry and different type of businesses here. So we want to be able to provide that type of housing that would accommodate a diverse workforce. So, I think this type of development would be welcome, and having those type of housing forms would ensure that we're if people do choose Fort Saskatchewan as a place to live, they can do that, and they wouldn't have to choose a place like Edmonton or Sherwood Park.
I'm going to register for round 3, Mayor Katcher.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Blizzard, you're next.
Hello, a few more questions. So it's, what do you call it? Basement suites or garden suites aren't allowed, but I was also concerned, it says bed and breakfast is discretionary. And I'm assuming that's in the 3-story townhouses because that's the way I read it. And that, to me, that's a concern because a bed and breakfast, in my mind, is where the owner is present. These aren't very big to begin with. Parking will be tight. Is that did I read that right? Let's answer it that way.
Through your Councillor Blizzard, that is correct. Yeah, bed and breakfast is listed as discretionary use. So when it comes to discretionary uses, it is up. When an application does come in, the development officer does use discretion. So the officer would look at more things like parking or impacts to adjacent residents or things like that. So it's not guaranteed that the bed and breakfast would go in. It really depends on the merits of the application.
Okay. And so, and I don't know which location you were talking about. The only 3-story townhouses I know, and I think they don't have basements, is the ones by that new West Point across from the hospital. I think those are all 3-story. Do you know how wide they are? The size of them? They're more than 11 feet anyways.
Through your worship to Councillor Blizzard, I don't know offhand exactly how wide they are, but it would be safe to say they would be wider than 12 feet.
What's our minimum bin? I guess maybe you know that.
I'm sorry?
What's our minimum width bin for a townhouse?
To your worship, Councillor Blizzard, my guess would be at least 6.1 meters, because I believe they are double garage, right? At the bottom to enter. So for a double garage, you would at least need at least 6.1 meters.
What's another townhouse, though? What's the minimum width that currently? Because one of the reasons for this special is because of the 11 feet. So what rate now, what's the smallest width of townhouse we have in Fort Saskatchewan?
Your worship, Councillor, I'd have to take a look. I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay, you're good.
That's all for now.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Kelly in round 3.
Thank you. Back to the fire question. Just to be sure that I completely understand, the side yard setback is 1.2 meters. So in the 3-story product, for instance, the fourplexes will be separated from themselves, 3 stories high, but separated by a total of 2.4 meters. Is that correct?
Through your worship to Councillor Good, that is correct. 2.4 meters.
It's my understanding, and I could be wrong, at my recollection that with a 1-story building at the 1.2 meters setback, there are special provisions necessary to meet the building code for fire retarded construction. Am I correct? Or if not, where exactly in that formula do those provisions, the fire code provisions, start to impact construction?
Through your worship to Councillor Kelly, I don't know for sure. I just know that buildings could be, typically if you're outside the 10-minute response time, then the setback requirements would double. However, if there are construction techniques that are applied to the side of the building and the design of it, that could be in lieu of the setback. So, for example, instead of being having a separation of 2.4, doubled would be 4.8. If you have a certain type of a siding and fewer window openings, then that could be brought back. I don't think that would apply if it was a 1-story versus a 2 or a 3-story. I think it's the same, but I'd have to double check with the building inspector on that.
Okay, thank you. I've got other questions, but they can wait for the presentation of the developer. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So that appears to be all the questions for administration at this point in time. So we do have 3 individuals who have registered, and because of how they are speaking to this, we're going to actually invite all 3 of them up. They have pre-registered Jamie Kitlarchuk, Qualico Communities, Nicholas Carroll, Streetscape Developments, and Chris Davies, Davies Consulting. Typically, each one would get 5 minutes, but because we know the questions that will be asked will be going between them, it's just easier to have all 3 of them. So you will have up to your 5 minutes each, but that would be 15 minutes. So because it is a public hearing, I need each one of you to state your name, once again, who you're with, and if you're speaking in favor or opposed for the record. And you each have each one should do it themselves.
Good afternoon. My name is Chris Davis, and I am here to speak in favor of these bylaws.
Good afternoon. My name is Nicholas Carls of Streetside Developments, and I'm in favor of the proposal today.
And good afternoon. My name is Jamie Kitlarchuk, and I'm with Qualico Communities. As Chris and Nicholas stated, we're here in support of the Forest Ridge Stage 13 redistricting application. This stage includes the proposed Forest Ridge outline, or Forest Ridge street-oriented residential district, which would allow for 2 to 3 story townhouse units, as well as semi-detached units with rear lane access. And we're also going to speak in support of the associated area structure plan and outline plan amendments. So to start off, I'd like to speak a bit about the evolution of neighborhood design and development in the region. Traditionally, low-density residential neighborhoods were designed to accommodate single-family homes on large lots with plenty of space in between. And over time, neighborhoods have been changing to accommodate a more diverse population with different lifestyle needs and financial considerations. Now, factors prompting this shift include population growth and urbanization, an aging population, affordability concerns, lifestyle changes, and environmental considerations related to more efficient usage of land. As developers, we've been adapting to these changes by creating more complete and diverse communities, which complement the existing more traditional lower density areas. Now, this recent example from the Uplands neighborhood in Edmonton, we can see housing types ranging from larger and smaller single-family homes to zero lot line options next to duplexes and townhouse blocks and an area planned for walk-up apartments. And you'll notice that all these options are within a 10-block radius. So this is just one example of the diversity we're seeing in new neighborhoods within the region as our cities evolve. While affordability, market demand, and buyer preferences all play a role in shaping new communities, local policies and plans provide for a long-term vision that guides how communities will grow. Fort Saskatchewan's MDP establishes policies that encourage housing diversity and increase densities within developing neighborhoods. And both the MDP and the West Park ASP contain policies encouraging new and innovative housing types to address financial, lifestyle, and cultural needs of diverse demographics. To ensure the proposed FRSO district is sensitively integrated within the existing community, we've worked closely with administration to establish an overlay within the West Park ASP and Forest Ridge Outline Plan. This overlay identifies an area in which the FRSO district may be applied, though it can also accommodate a mix of standard lower density options as well. As you can see in the outline plan figure, we've intentionally included a transitional area between the overlay and the existing developed blocks. You'll also notice that we've identified 3-story and 2-story townhouse blocks within Stage 13. As Taryn mentioned, for any future townhouse blocks within this area, we would have to go through a similar exercise of identifying the type and height of block being proposed. Now zooming into Stage 13, this slide identifies the proposed redistricting. We're proposing 3 blocks of RC district and 2 blocks of FRSO. In terms of housing diversity, Stage 13 will introduce new options that both complement and expand on the lot types that were offered in Stages 12A and B, the previous stage that we had approved. Within these stages, residents will have options ranging from 2- and 3-story townhomes to front garage duplex to more typical front and rear single detached homes, as well as larger lot options. Now this slide provides a bit more detail on the lots being proposed in Stage 13. This stage includes a total of 75 lots accommodating a variety of house sizes and price points. Again, I want to highlight that we'll be transitioning from the existing developed area along Willow Link on the east side, with smaller lots backing onto them before introducing the new FRSO district further west. I also want to note that all of the semi-detached and single-detached lots proposed under the RC district can accommodate double-car front garages and driveways, and the larger lots on the south side can all accommodate triple-car garages and driveways. Now, before I wrap up, I wanted to address some of the questions that came up at first reading. The first one's related to the interface between the proposed 3-story townhouses and the future lots to the west. While we can't say for certain the type of housing that will be developed in future stages, we expect they'll either be 2-story lower density housing forms or potentially additional 2- or 3-story townhomes. Regardless, transitioning from 3 to 2 stories, especially given the additional spacing for the rear driveway and lane, will have minimal impact on the future lots. Also of note, and this is key, is that a 3-story maximum height is permitted within the standard RC district, so the FRSO height is not out of line with what's already allowed under the existing residential district. Now, expanding on the interface question, I wanted to provide an example of what the 3-story townhomes look like on an entire block. You can see that the fronts are set back to accommodate some amenity space for each unit. In addition, the builder takes care of all of the landscaping and fencing right from the start to ensure it's done properly and looks consistent. You can also see that individual units vary in depth, allowing for a variety of floor plans while adding visual interest to the buildings. We also heard questions regarding unit sizes and concerns about potential for entire streets consisting of 8-foot wide units. Now, first I'll note that we've added a fundamental use provision to the district clarifying that the minimum unit width shall be no less than 3.6 meters, which equates to 12 feet wide. This slide shows how a 12-foot wide unit would be laid out, as well as some photos of the main living area. When considering room sizes, 10 to 12 feet is not uncommon. It's just that the layout is a little bit more linear than square. You'll also need to keep in mind that these are not intended to compete with duplex or standard larger townhomes, but instead they appeal to buyers who would otherwise be in the market for an apartment or condo type of unit. Now, regarding the mix of unit sizes, in Stage 13, we're proposing 36 townhome lots. Of those 36 lots, only 4 are proposed as 12-foot wide units. The rest are a mix of 14 and 18-foot units. This mix of options is meant to accommodate different price points, household sizes, and needs. As we heard in the Heartland Housing Foundation presentation last month, there's a large gap with respect to smaller 2- and 3-bedroom options, which these townhomes could accommodate. StreetSide has experienced tremendous amount of success introducing this product in the regional market, including several neighborhoods in Edmonton, Spruce Grove, Sherwood Park, and St. Albert. In fact, it's been so successful that in 2023, they had over 50% of the market share for townhomes by developer in the region, with 290 sales. We believe that this product mix will fit well within Forest Ridge and will provide options that are currently undersupplied in Fort Saskatchewan. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to speak, and we'd be happy to answer any questions. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. So you have 7 minutes left. Anybody else wishing to speak? No? Well, yes, no?
Sure. Chris is going to address the population question.
Okay.
Thank you, Your Worship, and this is indirectly back to Councillor Abitoye's question regarding population, and I just looked up the before and after outline plan versions, and there's a population difference of 86 people, and I just wanted to point out that that's for the entire orange crosshatched area that could be applied within the West Park Area Structure Plan and the Forest Ridge Outline Plan. So that's the difference. That's the theoretical bump that would happen to the entire neighborhood as a result of this one change. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right, then we will go into clarifying questions. All right, Councillor Harris, you're first.
This is a question to the Qualico community representative. I don't recall your name again. What was it, sir?
Jamie?
Jamie Gitlarczyk.
Jamie, thank you. So, Jamie, I recall vividly the layout of the lots when they were first proposed for overall development in the area structure plan. So you're getting a significantly higher level of density on this. Does putting in a higher level of density give the developer a better rate of return on the raw land component of your development, or ultimately do you adjust the front foot from a sale point of view so that it ultimately brings the overall cost down to help promote affordable housing?
Through you, Mayor Ketcher, to
and the camera's actually back there.
Oh, sorry. To Councillor. In the case of adding density and different options, it's not necessarily that it results in additional revenue. What it does do is it allows us to open up the area to more people who might be looking for different options, which helps us to sell at a higher velocity. And so the benefit is that we're able to attract more people into the area, right? If we only provide one or two options, that really limits the buyer pool. And in this case, what we've been seeing in other communities that I would say are probably a similar size and maybe demographic to Fort Saskatchewan is that housing options like these townhouses have been very, very successful, more successful than our single family options over the last 3 or 4 years.
I guess I asked that question primarily because I'm not opposed to the developer making a return on your investment. I'm just curious what this new product does for the overall affordability factor that ultimately entices people to our community. So that's kind of what I was asking the question about. So ultimately you have a net cost per front foot, whatever that is, and your rate of return on investment. That's kind of what I was curious about in relation to how it does promote affordability. Now, maybe there's not a response to that within this context, but that's kind of what I was trying to get at. So thank you.
We'll just see if there's a response because it is clarifying questions.
Through you, Mayor, to Councillor Harris. I mean, ultimately, the affordability comes from the more compact lot size and unit size, right? So there's both savings on the lot itself. The per front foot price may not be that different. In fact, it's very similar to what it would be on a single detached lot. But because the lots, rather than being 20 or 24 or 30 feet wide, are now 12 and 14 and 18 feet wide for the units, there's a savings on the lot side, which which then also gets passed on to the buyer, along with the ability to build a smaller unit. And if you'd like us to elaborate on that, Nicholas can probably provide a little more on the housing cost and where this sits in that spectrum.
Are you good for now, Councillor Harris?
Yeah, go to others. I can come back to it to get a little bit. I just want to understand kind of how it does promote affordability. So I'll renege for now.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Blizzard.
Hi, thanks for your presentation. I do have a few questions here. So, will a pickup truck fit in the garage? We do have a lot of Albertans, and a lot of them have pickup trucks. Like, what's the size of the garage? And I tried to look here, but I wouldn't know anyways. But I couldn't see the dimensions.
Through Mayor Ketcher to Councillor Blizzard, the garages would vary between basically 12, 14, and 18 feet wide. So the wider ones would accommodate a truck. The narrower ones would likely be a tough squeeze. I guess Nicholas might be able to speak to that. I'm not sure if if you could squeeze a 12-foot truck in a 12-foot garage.
Through yourself, Your Worship, Mayor Catcher, to Councillor Blizzard. Yes, generally speaking, sometimes it comes down to the quality of the driver, if I can put it that way. Generally speaking, we run the F-150 test. We call it when we're setting up a new floor plan that can someone reasonably put a truck inside this garage, because you're correct, it is quite common. Also, one of the things we set up our 3-story townhomes for was the full driveway at the back. We found with a lot of townhomes, the half-ton truck is one thing, but the 1-ton truck with, say, the welding unit on the back is another. And that's where we found the driveways were a very good option. Otherwise, we find those tend to, I'll say, parallel park inside the alley. But the driveway for those particular trucks that really don't fit in any garage, we found was a good option, the townhomes with the driveway off the rear. Okay,
so when you're talking pickup truck, you're not talking an extended cab, right? Just the regular cab?
The standard 18-foot F-150 is usually our test, yes.
Yeah, I happen to notice there's a lot of extended. I have a few. I also heard you just say you're only looking at 4 11-foot units in this whole development, or did I hear that wrong?
Through Mayor Ketcher to Councillor Blizzard, between the 2 blocks in stage, sorry, if you bear with me a second, I'll bring up a subdivision plan here.
Well, I think we're shown here. I'm looking at one map, but yeah, we're orange and
so between the orange and the pink areas, yes, 4 of those lots are 12 feet, accommodate 12-foot wide units. The rest are all 14 and 18-foot units.
Okay, sounds better already. Okay, I'll come back.
Okay, I'll put you on for round 2. Councillor Kelly, a couple questions.
Yes, thank you. Get my thoughts straight here, gentlemen. Give me a second. I'm looking at your presentation and the floor plans, the model called Demi, which I think is the narrow model, the 3-story narrow model. Is this the one that you're calling the 12-foot wide product?
Through you, Mayor Catcher, to Councillor Kelly, yes, this is one of the 12-foot wide models.
Okay, but my simple arithmetic would tell me that 3.6 meters is not 12 feet. So the minimum width is 3.6, but you are in fact going to build them to 12 feet?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, sorry.
Yep.
Through you, Mayor Catcher, to Councillor Kelly, houses are typically built in 2-foot increments, but land use bylaws are typically written in metrics as a standard, and so the conversion from meters to feet doesn't work out exactly. If it were to be bumped up to 3.7, I believe, it would equal 12 feet and change, which is a little bit high. So in order to accommodate 12 feet, you need to round down slightly. That's the way the math works out. But regardless, the intent would be to accommodate these 12-foot wide units.
So to be clear, because I didn't sense a clear answer there, the minimum width of one of the units will be 12 feet.
Through Mayor Catcher to Councillor Kelly, the minimum lot width will be 12 feet. For townhouses, the walls are built on the property line, but obviously, like, there's a width to the wall, so there will be a little bit of additional width that would be taken out of the unit to accommodate for the width of the wall.
I was going to get to that in my next round of questioning. So, Mayor Catcher, that's 2. Put me on again, please.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Abatoye, you're next.
Thank you, and thank you for your presentation. My first question is around the target audience for this, and the reason I'm asking this question is because I've actually seen this house in Edmonton, and it was, the way it was presented to me, it was like, it was great as an investment property, right? Because, you can, maybe have a business on the lower floor and then have like residents living on top. So who exactly is the target audience for this property?
I'll defer that one to Nicholas. He's a little more in tune with the market for this product.
Through your worship to Councillor Abatoye, the market for this product is incredibly broad. So at any time we have this product in between 15 to 20 sites. I'd say our top buyer groups, we get a lot of first-time buyers. We do get some downsizers. We see single parents as a good option for a family-style home that's able to fit within their price point. Some of those eventually choose to convert the property into a rental property, but generally speaking, for the most part, I'd say we find end users generally in those 3 groups. It's I'd say the first rung on the housing ladder. It's a way into the market for a lot of these groups, or for those looking to downsize, a way to find a more manageable space.
Okay, thank you. So the 3-story townhouse, the end units, do they have like a separate entrance that, you can have like 2 different families live in the building?
Through your worship.
Will they, I guess they're not built yet, but will they typically have the side entrance?
The 3-story units have a front door and a garage door, so generally they're set up for one family or one occupant. The 2-story units, generally the same. We don't have basement suites permitted under this zone, or we're not seeking to do that. In the city, sometimes we do put a side entrance, but we didn't feel that was appropriate for this application. For this one.
Okay. I have one more question. I guess you can come back to me.
I'll come back to you.
Yeah, that's okay.
Trying to keep it fair today. Okay, so I'm next on the speaking order. So what I've seen is your map of this specific area, but Forest Ridge is larger than just that area, correct? So within your entire Forest Ridge area, how much diversity do you have in there for housing? Let's talk about your entire area.
Well, to answer the question, Mayor Catcher, there isn't a lot of diversity in the previous stages. If you look at this map here, it keeps going back to the starting. If we look at this map here that shows the outline plan, that's only about half of the ASP area. So if you look at the ASP over on the right side here, where this storm pond is in the middle, the outline plan is kind of showing the north side on this, that storm pond. So majority of the yellow area north of that is low density, single detached. As we go south around the school, there were some semi-detached blocks introduced, and there's a mix of larger and smaller single detached. And as we get closer to Highway 21 and the commercial area, there's a little more variety in terms of medium and higher density.
Okay, and I guess my other question, the school area is where the green is?
Correct.
So I guess my question is, would that typically be more desirable for people to live closer to school areas where there's maybe more affordable options?
It would, yes. It's in terms of proximity to schools and the major roads in and out of the neighborhood. This part or this area is fairly conveniently located within a block and a half of the school site and West Park Drive.
Okay. Now, in your talking about diversity there, so have you got any 3-car garage places? Are they all just 2-car?
Yeah, so the plan here is the lots on the south side in Brown. Those are planned as larger lots, so those would actually accommodate 36-foot wide building pocket, which is fairly large compared to a typical, which would be in the 24 to 28 range for a single detached. So those would accommodate triple car garages and triple car driveways. And assuming this plan goes ahead, the intent would be to continue that form at least to the walkway, which you see a little bit further south, and depending on how much demand there is, even extending it further.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll go on to round 2. Councillor Harris, were you on round 2?
I'm fine, Mayor Kitcher.
Okay,
you can pass me.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Blizzard, you're next.
Yeah, I've got a few more questions. So one, you mentioned about basement units aren't allowed, but these don't have basements. So they can't be allowed basement units because they don't, the drive-in, the garage is literally the above ground basement, right?
Yeah, through you, Mayor Ketcher, to Councillor Blizzard. So the 3 stories would not have basements, but the 2 stories would. So the 2 stories would actually have a detached garage or parking pad. So it provides 2 different options. The 2 stories would have basements.
Okay. With the parking, so they all will have garages, and all will fit 1 car for sure, right? In the 2 and 3 story.
Through Mayor Ketcher to Councillor Blizzard, the 3 stories will all have garages. Some will have double car garages and some will have single car garages. So the 18s would fit a double car, as well as the driveways in the back.
Well, and that's what I was going to ask, actually. So I got that. They all have some indoor parking, but is there a pad big enough so that they can pull up that welding truck or that extended cab behind? Because my concern would be having it on the road because it's going to have trouble fitting there.
So before getting to that one, so regarding the garages, the 2 stories, the ones that would have the separate garage, those ones can also have parking, excuse me, they can have parking pads or garages. So that'll be up to the buyer to determine whether or not they would like to purchase the garage. Similar to a lot of single detached lane homes, they'll provide a parking pad, like a single or double parking pad as the option, and then the homeowner can at a later date decide if they'd like to add a garage or not. So yes, the 3 stories will have a garage. The 2 story, it's optional from the get-go, but with respect to the depth of those pads in the back and the depth of the driveways on the 3 stories, we've actually increased them an additional meter compared to what we would typically do in like, say, Edmonton or Spruce Grove, where we're developing this. And that was through conversations with administration about just ensuring that we are providing that bit of extra depth for someone who's got a longer truck, for instance. We took the length of an F-350 basically and made sure it could fit on that. So assuming someone parks it properly, it should be able to fit.
Okay, but the 2 story, if they were to build a garage, only has a little pad. It wouldn't actually have enough for parking, or do they also?
So there again, it's similar to the 3 stories where there's a mix of sizes. So some can accommodate double car garages, the 18s. The 14s and 12s would accommodate single cars.
Well, no, the garage is one thing, but if the garage is built, is there still room outside of the garage on those 2 stories? Because I know I've gone by units, and I think some of the 0 lot line ones were somewhere there was a garage in back, but then I don't know what it was, 6-foot pad or something, not even enough.
Right. Yes. Yeah. So You're right. On the ones that would have a detached garage or parking pad, so the 2 stories, there wouldn't be the additional driveway on top of that. That's only the ones that have the attached the 3-story with the attached. And again, it's to provide options. Some people might value that basement space more than additional parking space in the back, whereas some might feel that they need the additional parking space and the 3-story suits them more.
Okay, moving on to, I can put you on for another round if you like. Councillor Kelly, you're next.
Thank you. Gentlemen, the minimum lot width of 3.6, that applies to the 2-story townhomes as well? And is it your intention to build the interior units on those at that width?
What's that? Sorry. There should not be. Yeah. Through you, Mayor Ketcher, to Councillor Kelly. The narrower 12-foot wide pocket option is intended to accommodate the 3-story towns. There isn't currently any 2-story floor plan that is designed at 12 feet, and our plan doesn't have any. So the 2 stories would be a mix of 18s and 14s. Those 4 12-foot wide units that I mentioned earlier are all located on the 3-story block.
Okay, and you were breaking up a bit, so I just want to reiterate to see if I understood correctly. The 2 stories will not be built to that 12-foot width. They will be 14 feet or wider. Essentially, is that your message?
Through Mayor Ketcher to Councillor Kelly, that's correct.
Okay, because I was looking at the drawing and I couldn't make that distinction. Thank you. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Harris.
Question about parking on the street in front of both the 3-story and the 2-story. So looking at the information you provided to us, the 3 stories are right across from semi-detached, which basically are the duplex lots that are similar to what currently exist on Willow Link. How much, so these are quite narrow lots, so people aren't really going to have an easy time parking in front of their own kind of property. Is that correct? And then adjunct to that, the 2-story product is going to be right across from probably some single family with garages in the front. What do you envision with the parking in those areas on the street for both the 3-story product and this 2-story product?
Through Mayor Ketcher to Councillor Harris, I'm not sure if I can present my screen again. We did prepare a parking plan and have shared this with administration for information. What you're seeing there for vehicle blocks is F-150s. And that's to show what can be accommodated. That's a conservative view of what can be accommodated within these lots. Now, if you're looking on street, the entire block face on the townhouse side would accommodate on-street parking. On the semi-detached side, because of the way the lots fan out, it's reverse to what you would see on Willow Link, so they actually widen in the front, which results in enough space to accommodate an average-sized car. But when we did the math, it would be tight fitting, say, a truck between every driveway, and so what we did here is we looked at it, we calculated, I can't recall, Chris, what was the width, do you recall?
On the on-streets?
The on-streets.
No.
Regardless, so what we did is we calculated like an average vehicle width, and that was using something similar to, say, a RAV4 or, a small to mid-sized SUV, and identified where those could be parked on the road, and anything less than that we didn't consider as a parking space. And what we found is that along this duplex block here, we could actually accommodate, you know, a small to mid-size SUV, basically anything except a truck between driveways, and that is allowing for space, you know, between the driveway and the vehicle itself. But where we got to the single detached, we actually ended up with less. And so on this street itself, it was a little more tight, because now instead of the driveways being basically paired together, you've got a little more space between driveways and all that. Regardless, if you look at this plan as a whole, we have 75 units and a total of 279 parking stalls. So that includes garage parking stalls, driveway parking stalls, and on-street parking stalls. So you're averaging about 3.8 stalls per unit just in this stage alone. We felt that that was sufficient, again, considering that the majority of homeowners might have 2 vehicles. Of course, some have 3, 4, 5, and others might have 1.
Yeah, I would say I'm familiar with that area. My daughter lives on Willow Link, so when I look at the parking in the area across from her area, which has the duplexes, that's why I'm asking this question. So they will have driveways where they can park at least one vehicle on the driveway and something on the street if and as required. Is that a correct assumption?
Through you, Mayor Catcher, to Councillor Harris, they'll have driveways that can accommodate 2 vehicles. They'll also have garages that can accommodate, the majority of them can accommodate 2 vehicles. And some of them will have space in between the driveways for on-street parking as well, but it won't be every lot.
Okay, so you indicated that parking within this area that we're looking at redesignation and approval on is approximately 261 parking stalls. Did I get that number right?
Our calculation is 279.
Okay, all right, thank you. That's good.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Blizzard, were you on round 3? No. You're good? Okay, that looks like all of the questions for you. So thank you very much. You can take your seat and I'll invite administration back. So, thank you very much for joining us. So I will just ask, does council have any additional questions for administration? Not seeing any. I will close the public hearing at, sorry. Councillor Kelly, we're still in public hearing.
Thank you. I was a bit slow on the key there, Mr. Catcher. Gentlemen, I'm concerned about the apparent fact that our fire department hasn't had a chance to look at this plan. Would it make sense, in your opinion, to refer this back to administration and allow some time for that to happen?
Through you, Your Worship, Councillor Kelly. So as part of our review, when we were looking at the applications, it was sent to fire. I've had a number of conversations with our building inspector just with respect to the fire response times and what that means in terms of construction. Generally, there's a few things that happen, but the response back is it can be accommodated within the building pocket. It's just there is certain construction. It has to be built in a certain way to ensure that it is going to meet the code requirements. So, like I said before, it could mean putting a different type of material on the side of the building, not having vented soffits in the eaves, and other considerations as well. It's just these things would need to be accommodated to make it work. I did look at the actual area to see if it would be inside or outside. It is close, but it does appear that it would be probably outside of that response time. However, we don't know unless a subdivision is updated and it's reevaluated. So this is something that we do from time to time. Typically, it's done on an annual basis, but we won't know exactly how far or how much within the actual response time it would be. But again, like in terms of a development being constrained by the fact that it has a building pocket and the setbacks, it can work provided that the construction would meet the code requirements.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. I was aware of that. Of course, it can work if it meets code requirements, but I think the issue is that it might not meet code requirements and it might not get built
we're
properly.
not debating it with.
Well, I'm okay. Let me finish my question then, please. I guess my question is, are we certain that the developer and the future builder is absolutely clear on the building requirement for this particular development? Yes or no?
Your mic is on.
Through you, Worship Councillor Kelly, I would say yes. It would be subject to a building permit approval, inspection, and review. So it would be something that would be dealt with at that particular time. But it does go through a process to make sure that it would meet the code requirements.
And in the history of Fort Saskatchewan, Mr. Thomas, has there ever been buildings put up that didn't meet the code requirements because something got missed or misinterpreted?
Your Worship, Councillor Kelly, I wouldn't be in a position to answer that right now.
Thank you.
Okay, you're good? Okay. Okay, that appears to be all of the final questions for administration. So I will close the public hearing now at 3:17, and we will move into business arising from the public hearing. So go ahead, Taryn, you may present.
Thank you, Mayor Ketcher. Now we'll move right into the recommended motion. The way I've prepared the slides is to go through each amendment application. So the first recommended motion is for the area structure plans and is to give second and third reading to the bylaw.
Okay, thank you. So is your council? Councillor Macon?
Got to do all the talking. All right. So I'm prepared to make the first motion that council give. So just based on what Taryn said, am I reading it in this order or do I need to do a different one?
You have to do the second reading first, and it actually has A and B on there. So I would read the first one as presented.
Okay. The council gives second reading to bylaw C124 to amend West Park Area Structure Plan bylaw C813 as presented.
Okay. Would you like to speak to the motion?
I will. Kind of speak into it all, I guess, rather than each of these individually.
That's fine.
I love this proposal that's been brought forward. It's a uniquely planned neighborhood with a variety of housing types, which I believe is exactly what I'm looking for. Narrow lots are not for everyone, but they are a desirable product for our residents. There's examples of different heights throughout the city. I believe it is an efficient use of land as we go forward, being conscientious of how we are building. We just had a presentation that indicated that we need to invest in the missing middle, and I believe that this aligns with our MDP, our West Park ASP as has been stated, and has the support of the community. As I said, personally, this is what I'm looking for when I'm looking for how we are going to develop into the future, diverse neighborhoods that really meet a wide range of need. So with all that, I will support this.
Okay, thank you. The motion is open for discussion and debate. Councillor Blizzard.
I'm just going to treat this all at once, and then hopefully once questions are done, we'll go smoothlier through the rest of it. But so if this FRSO is approved, does that mean that in the future it doesn't come before council? It's an approved plan, or do we still see it? Because to me, this should be more of a test and see how it works out. I mean, I understand, I'm glad it's only 4 units that are that narrow, but we could have parking concerns on all of this. And to me, it would look nicer or feel better if we did it like the zero lot lines, more of a test and try it out and then go back and actually reevaluate how it's working.
Through your worship to Councillor Blizzard, so I'll give yes and no. So under the area structure plan for the West Park area structure, which gives direction to lower level plans, the plan will say that this FRSO applies for the entire area. But once you get to another document like the outline plan, if the developer wishes to come back to build more 3-story, 2-story, we'll bring those amendments forward to council.
So then we can say no again, or not again. So we could look at it and say, has this worked, and decide on
definitely, that. Yeah, that would be up to council to decide, but that is something that planning would present when that application would come forward.
Your worship, if I could just add to that. So the way this is being presented is the area structure plan is being amended, and it shows an area where the new district would be eligible. So if the developer wishes, they could bring it forward, but it would only qualify within that area that's identified within the ASP.
Okay, and I'm just going to say this because here's my concerns with all of that. The bed and breakfast, yes, it's discretionary, but, you know, people move and someone gets it approved and new neighbors come in and maybe they're not happy, but they didn't get a say. And yes, sometimes it's buyer beware, but it's still a tough one. And a bed and breakfast adds people. I think I just see issues coming. More parking. We're still a very car-oriented city. I did have a tour, so on the plus side, I had a tour and I saw one of these 11, 12-foot townhouses and was actually very impressed, because at first I'm like, are you crazy? This seems very small. It did look very impressive size-wise, so I can see that it could be livable, but it was also in an area, if I'm not mistaken, it was more of a, I say our countryside, where it was, the property was owned by the neighborhood. So I could see like a homeowners association where there's down the road is 4 parking stalls. So again, I can see that there could be issues with some of the parking, and that's a concern as lots get narrower. So once we get to tiny homes, we'll have big talks. And someone said to me once, and it was here in the city and not long ago, that, well, I don't have to live there. Well, I think we sit on council to look at, put ourselves in that spot. What if we did live there? So I always look at that view of, no, maybe I'm not going to live there. Maybe I don't even want to live there, but is this a livable place? Because we want to make sure that the city is livable. So I think I will support it for now and the overall as we go through a lot of motions here. But definitely if it comes back, I'll be looking at it closely to see how it's worked out with parking.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Kelly.
Yes, thank you. Councillor Blizzard, I think if you look at the drawing given to us by the developers, you will see that there's 10 units that are that narrow, not 4. There's 5 blocks of four units each, so the 2 insides, 5 times 2. I'm not going to support the motions. I'm not at all convinced that Fort Saskatchewan does indeed have a missing middle. I quite frankly find that entire argument and position, I don't believe in it. I'm not convinced with the argument, not at all. While we might not have enough row housing, we make up for that with more duplexes and triplexes than perhaps other communities. The data is cherry-picked, I feel, to support the concept. Secondly, Fort Saskatchewan is definitely more of a rural city than the piers in the area, I would suggest. We are separated from Edmonton by the river, and that does create a bit of a hard barrier and certainly a traffic bottleneck if you wish to commute. It makes us a little more independent, I think, and more of a rural feel. I do have significant concerns that three-story buildings 2.4 meters apart could create a fire issue. I would like to see something a little more formal from our fire department and or building inspectors, something more formal from people charged with the responsibility for fire safety in the community to offer assurances to council that in fact a three-story building 2 meters or 2.4 meters from its neighbor is not going to be a problem. I see it as a gigantic chimney and I see it as a problem. And I don't want any confusion down the road, the building's being built assuming that it's within a 10-minute fire response time when it's later determined that it is not. So I'd like that issue to be abundantly clear before this project starts. And I didn't get the clear response that I was hoping to from administration. So I'm going to vote against this. In fact, I would like to refer it back to administration, but I can wait till the third reading. And we'll see how the second reading goes. And I do think that for the third reading, I'll make a referral motion to have administration, have the fire department or fire chief, whomever is in a responsible position, report back to council on their opinion of the fire aspects of this particular building's type in this particular area. So not in favor at the time being. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Nguyen. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I just want to thank the developers for presenting this. Certainly a lot of my questions were answered this afternoon. I do agree with the comment that this does provide a mix of housing types of products that are going to cater to different price points, demographics in this area that we typically haven't seen and built out in West Park so far. I'll just make the comment, though, that I think with an increased density in an area like this, where we do have access to park spaces for an increased density. I would like to see in the near future a commercial development application come forward so that we're kind of meeting the need of having a node and a meeting space if we're going in this direction. So that's my only comment at the moment. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. I am going to support this. I agree with Councillor Macon, but I probably agree more with the fact that, you know, the reason I asked the question about the entire neighborhood is there are some big estate homes that are in this neighborhood. Yes, there's some duplex homes that are in this neighborhood. I live in West Park myself, and I'm only 2 blocks from 7-Eleven, so I can walk to convenience store. But my feelings is, as we ask the developers when they come in all the time, often we look at just an area, but we have to look at the broader area because there are estate houses, there are larger single family homes. And when I look at this, you know, I see that West Park, specifically in this area, doesn't have this product. And I guess my feelings is if you're a single mom or a young family, since we are of average age of 35, you may want to live in West Park. So where do you live if you can't afford a $500,000 home? And when I look at the show homes, they're ranging about $515,000 to $600,000. So where do they live? So basically, if we don't provide something for them, then we're excluding this age group of new home buyers, young single moms who maybe want to get into their first time home. And I just think, you know, we keep talking about diversity and inclusion, and I really believe And I was the one that said, well, you don't have to live there if you don't want to, and you don't. If this is a product that fits your needs and you feel like you want to live in West Park, or you want to live in the townhouses in Sienna or the other areas, that's your choice as market. So I don't believe that we should be excluding people from West Park. And as a West Park resident, I would wholeheartedly invite them to live there. We've got Andy's Playground. We've got West River's Edge. We're going to have the new school there eventually, which the schools are advocating for that property, by the way, hard. So, you know, I'm hoping by next year we're going to maybe get an announcement, maybe for a school, and then people are going to say this is really desirable. So on that basis, I am going to support this. Thank you. Councillor Abatoye?
Thank you. I definitely support this motion. As a person that plays in the real estate space, I know that there are people that are looking for this type of product. And I think that, you know, approving this motion will definitely get that products available for those types of people. And really, we continue to see the prices of houses go up. So what that means is that less and less people are able to afford the standard type of houses they would, you know, otherwise have been able to afford. But a house like this or houses like this gives them that opportunity to be able to still enter the market, you know, especially as first-time home buyers, or as we see lots of people, you know, migrating from Eastern Canada and even from outside Canada to our community. We're seeing a lot of people moving here. I think it's providing that opportunity for them to get into the housing market, you know, so I definitely support this motion. I think it will definitely help, you know, close that gap. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm not seeing anybody else. Councillor Macon for final close and second. Oh, sorry, just second. Councillor Harris, just beat you under the wire there. It's a little tougher. It's a little slower process. I'll come back to you after he's done. Councillor Harris?
Well, I will reluctantly support this. I'm interested to see how this product will actually be developed and evolve. I do respect and recognize some of the comments that Councillor Kelly was making. I'm not necessarily convinced the missing middle argument is that strong. But I'm prepared to consider this as a test case in that regard. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, administration said if there's going to be any more of this after these two blocks are developed, then ultimately it'll have to come back and we'll have to give it some consideration. So other than it would be unique if we allowed this to happen and nothing else, well, that would in itself be kind of unique. So I'll reluctantly support it from the standpoint of just on a test case basis.
Okay, thank you. I'll go to Councillor Macon for close. Oh, sorry.
No problem. Thank you for all the comments, and I do appreciate the support on this. Just a couple comments that I would make just based on some of the things that were said is, I will add that I really did appreciate the applicant's presentation on the parking. I think what we're hearing is that some municipalities are going away from parking regulations and really reducing that. And I think that that's still something that's really important to our community and the quality of those neighborhoods. So I did appreciate what they had to say on that. And I would also add that I know a lot of people, staff, friends, who are in that missing middle and that they're trying to buy and rent in this community and is extremely difficult. So I think that that's why developments like this are really important for our future. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. The motion for second reading is now closed. Please cast your vote. And that is carried. Would you like to continue on?
Thank you. I'll make the motion that Council give third reading to Bylaw C-124 to amend West Park Area Structure Plan Bylaw C-813 as presented.
Thank you. Do you have anything further to speak in favor?
Nothing further, thanks.
Thank you. The motion is open for further discussion and debate. Okay. Councillor Kelly.
Thank you. I've expressed my concerns over regarding a fire, I guess, safety review or building code review. A question for administration or ledge services. I'd like to put a referral motion forward to have this matter set back and set aside for administration to review the fire aspects of it. But it doesn't have to happen on third reading of bylaws C-2124. In administration's opinion, would it make sense perhaps to wait till the third of the suggested motions, the amendments to the Forest Ridge Outline Plan, instead of third reading to get this referral motion in front of council? I'm looking for an opinion, please.
Mr. Thomas?
Through your worship, Councillor Kelly, it could be done at the land use bylaw motions. What we're doing right now is we're putting the legislative framework in place in the area structure plan and then the outline plan. So I would suggest the proper place to do it would be when the land use bylaw amendment comes forward.
Which would be, sorry, motion 4, 5, or 6. What are you suggesting to me, please? 5, I assume?
Your worship, it would be motion 5.
Thank you. I'll wait till then. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So this is open for discussion and debate on third reading. Anything further? If not, anything to close, Councillor Macon?
No, nothing, thanks.
Okay, the motion is now closed for third reading. Please cast your vote. And that is carried. Thank you very much. I have been asked for a comfort break since we've been in here for over an hour and a half. So I think if everybody's agreeable, we'll take a recess. It's 3:36. Let's be back at 3:45. We'll split the difference at 9 minutes. So we will recess till 3:45. Thank you. Okay, the time is 3:45 and we will continue our meeting. Councillor Kelly and Councillor Harris, are you there? Okay. All right, the next one is item number 3. Councillor Blizzard. Go ahead.
I will make the motion that council approve amendments to the Forest Ridge Outline Plan as presented.
All right, thank you very much. Would you like to speak to it?
No, I'm good. I just think it's okay. The outline plan is good.
All right, thank you. The motion is open for discussion and debate. Okay, not seeing anybody. All right. Anything on close, Councillor Blizzard?
No.
All right, the motion is closed. For the amendments to the Forest Plan Outline Plan, please cast your vote. And that is carried unanimously. Thank you. Who would like to do number 4? Go ahead.
Sure. I'll make a motion that council amend bylaw C2-24 through the addition of section 6.20.3A-11, which states individual dwelling units shall be no less than 3.6 meters in width.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll accept the motion. Do you wish to speak to it?
Well, I'm just going to say what I've said before. I think this would be a good test to see how this works, and we'll check before we approve more.
Okay, thank you. Motion is open for discussion and debate. Not seeing any. I will close the motion. Please cast your vote. And that is carried. Thank you. Councillor Abatoye, would you like to do the next one? Sure. Just push your button. Go ahead.
Okay. I'll make a motion that council amends bylaw that council gives second reading to bylaw C2-24 as amended to amend land use bylaw C23-20 as presented.
Thank you. Would you like to speak to it?
No, I think we've said all that we wanted to say, so no, I'm good.
Okay, thank you. So this is open for discussion and debate. Okay, go ahead, Councillor Kelly.
Thank you, Mayor Katcher. I did send a note in, but there might be a delay.
Yeah.
As indicated earlier, I'm going to move that this particular motion, second reading, be referred back to administration to obtain a definitive opinion as to whether or not the proposed development being discussed today fits within the 10-minute response window of our existing fire department.
Mr. Kaiser, are you able to draft?
Just one moment here.
So it would be for additional, referred to amend for additional information regarding fire services?
No, the 10-minute window, Mayor Katcher. I think I'd like to be specific, unless the general is satisfactory, I guess.
Okay, Councillor Kelly, I have a motion drafted here. Hopefully you can see my screen, if you can ensure that reflects your intent. And I would just need a time frame on when you'd want to see that back.
I think that works, Andrew. Thank you. As far as timing, I'll leave that up to administration, but I wouldn't think that this would take too long. I don't know why we couldn't, for instance, have it back at our next council meeting.
Do you want to put on a date for 2 weeks for our next council meeting?
I don't have the calendar in front of me. Would you do that for me, please? Give me a date. That's all I'm asking.
Just looking. 26th?
Why don't we say that? Pardon me?
26th. March
Thank
26th.
you. If that's the date, I'm good with that, Catcher. March 26th.
Okay, thank you. You can speak to your motion, referral motion.
I think it's obvious. We are aware that there's issues regarding the response window and envelope within certain parts of the extended areas of Fort Saskatchewan. It was my impression and confirmed by administration in their responses that this particular development probably lies pretty close to the border. But it is important that the developer and the future builder, and I suspect the future homeowner, understand exactly the position of this particular development. So that's why I'm making this request. I understand that it's going to slow this down a little bit, but I do consider this particular question to be extremely important, and I'm just asking council to give it 2 weeks for administration to bring back a definitive response on the question.
Okay, thank you. So I will only deal with the referral motion at this point in time. Councillor Macon.
Thank you. I'm not going to support the referral motion. I see this more of an information request, to be honest. It doesn't change my vote on the original motion. I'm satisfied with the information that was provided by administration as to when they would be discussing fire and building materials during the permitting process. So although I think that this is perhaps good information for us to have, I don't see the reason to delay the vote for this. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Blizzard.
Yeah, for pretty much the same reasons. I'm not going to support this either. I see this as if we are outside the 10-minute zone, then the building will be built differently to make sure that the fire, if there is a fire, hopefully never, but progress is slower. So I can see wanting it for information, but I don't think it needs to slow this down.
Okay, thank you. I'm also not going to support it. Administration said it was sent to fire services. They did provide their responses. Question was asked and answered 2 or 3 times. So I believe that administration has answered this question. So I'm comfortable with their response. Councillor Abatoye? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Actually, I have a question for administration. So houses outside of the 10 minutes response time, are they required to build at a higher standard, the HERF standard? Is that a requirement?
Through your worship, Councillor Abatoye, yes, if it is outside the 10-minute response time, then when it comes in for construction, so it would go through a process of receiving a development permit approval to make sure it complies with the land use bylaw requirements that are being considered right now. And then following that, it would go through a building permit process. So that's when it would receive approval subject to conditions. And at that point, the building inspector would make sure that it would comply with the code and those additional requirements to ensure a certain fire rating would be in place, given that the separation between the buildings would not be extended. So it would be not unlike other types of development outside of the 10-minute response time, other than townhouses. So it would be very similar to single detached housing, whether it's 1-story or 2-story or 2.5 stories.
So did you say it will not be unlike the regular? You say it won't be different. Is that what you just said?
Through your worship, Councillor Abatoy, yes, that's my understanding. You're dealing with a structure, and that structure is evaluated based on, there are certain types of building classifications, but I believe a townhouse unit would be treated the same as other low density forms.
Yeah, because if I remember correctly, a presentation that was given to council, that when a house is outside of the 10 minutes, then the house has to be built at a certain, I think it's called the HIRF standard, HIRF, right? So will these houses then be required to build according to that standard? Just yes or no?
Yes, it would have to be built at a higher standard if it would be outside.
Okay, well, that answers my question. Thank you. So, I want to be supporting this motion. I think that's what is required for us to, move forward with this building we already have. And I think that's, we're getting to spring. Time is of essence as they get into construction season, and we don't want to, delay the project any further. So, no, I want to support the motion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Nguyen on the referral.
Yeah, initially I thought that this might be beneficial and a sign of diligence on council's behalf, but I believe the questions have been answered here by administration, and the standard that these will have to be built to is apparent, and that's apparent to the developer as well. So for that reason, I won't support the motion.
Okay, thank you. I'll go to Councillor Kelly for close.
Thank you, Mayor Catcher. A question, I suppose, for administration as part of my comments. Do we have a definitive line, a definitive answer within the city of Fort Saskatchewan and where this 10-minute envelope actually exists?
To your worship, can I?
Yes,
just
go ahead.
Only because the fire chief's been watching and he sent me some information. So not to step over anyone, but yes, we do have a definitive 10-minute response map. It was implemented on March 6th of last year, so we've actually had it just over a year now. This particular development would be outside of the 10-minute response, so it would be subject to the higher construction standards when the development or the building permit is applied for.
Thank you, Mr. Fleming. You just answered my concerns. It makes my motion now a bit redundant. It appears that it's obvious and clear, and I didn't get that impression when I asked earlier. So I'm prepared to go with the question, Mayor Catcher.
Okay, thank you. The motion is now closed. Please cast your vote. And the motion is defeated unanimously. Okay, thank you. So we'll go back to the main motion. Was there any further discussion and debate on the main motion for second reading? If not, I will go back to Councillor Abatoye for close. Nothing on close. All right, the motion for second reading of bylaw C2-24 is now closed. Please cast your vote. And that is carried. Would you like to continue with third, Councillor Abatoye? Can you put the motion up?
Thank you. I make the motion that council gives third reading to bylaw C2-24 as amended to amend land use bylaw C23-20 as presented.
Thank you. Do you have anything further to speak in favor?
Nothing further, thank you.
Thank you. The motion is open for discussion and debate. Not seeing any. Anything on close?
Nothing further.
You're good.
Thank you.
Motion is now closed. Please cast your vote. And that is carried. Thank you very much. Carried 6-1. Okay. I think that's all of them, isn't it? Okay, good. We got them all covered. Thank you very much. All right, we will move on to the next item, which is land sale of old hospital lands. Aaron Brush Duncan presenting.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, for having me here today. I'm Aaron Brush Duncan, Director of Economic Development. This report is to provide Council with information regarding the proposed land sale of 9430 95th Street, also known as the Old Hospital Lands, legally described as Plan 152-3644, Block 22, Lot 17 and 18. As you can see here, the Old Hospital Lands are located just south of the intersection of 99th Avenue and 95th Street. This site is approximately 5.71 acres in size and is located along the 99th Avenue corridor and considered part of the downtown strategy area. In April of 2012, the Old Hospital Center was closed. In June of 2013, Council adopted the Old Health Center Site Redevelopment Brief to provide guidance for the development of the site under the Council-approved direct control zoning. On November 3rd of 2023, an offer to purchase the property was received. On January 17th of 2024, the city and the purchaser agreed to the terms of the sale and construction agreement, including a condition for council approval of the lands. To ensure the proposed project will meet the requirements of the direct control zoning, the sale of the lands is also conditional upon the approval of a development permit and development agreement. On February 13th, 2024, administration presented detailed information regarding the offer to council in a closed session. The proposed project is a multi-phased, mixed-use residential development. We are here today on March 12th to ask council to consider the land sale. Administration's recommendation is that council directs administration to proceed with the sale of the 5.71 acres of city-owned land located at 9430 95th Street, legally described as Plan 152-3644, Block 22, Lot 17 and 18, as presented in closed session during the February 13th, 2024 regular council meeting. I am happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to open it up for questions. I do have a question, but I think it's probably for Mr. Thomas as opposed to you, because it's probably more planning related. So if you'd like to come up. The only question that I have in the report, it talks about the redevelopment brief and the unified vision for what Council of the Day saw for that area. So I guess my question really comes to, so it's a DC, I heard that. So if it's sold and then the applications come into planning, so how close do you follow the redevelopment brief?
So Your Worship, my understanding is when the direct control was created, it was based in principle on the design brief. The wishes of council are articulated within the direct control, so we do follow that. There is a little bit of interpretation and discretion that we apply. So we tend to kind of think of what was in council's mind at the time when the direct control was applied or approved. But we do look at the words and apply discretion appropriately.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Councillor Blizzard, question?
Yeah, just one. So I'm looking at the map and the red lines, and it looks to me and it could be drawing, of course there's discrepancies, or changes slightly, but it's kind of like right on the sidewalk that surrounds 3/4 of this property. But we won't have to move the sidewalk, right? The sidewalk is the city's because part of the sidewalk comes from Turner Lodge all along whatever the number of that road is, and then part of it even at the front. If you look at where the red line is,
Yeah, shown here.
yeah.
Through your worship to Councillor Blizzard, we do not have a detailed site plan for us to consider, but I imagine a site walk would remain.
Through your worship, Councillor Blizzard, yeah, I don't think the sidewalk will be
Okay.
affected. Yeah.
Okay, I have no issue with it. I just because of the way the drawing was. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Nguyen.
So I'll make the motion that council direct administration to proceed with the sale of 5.71 acres of city-owned land located at 9430 95th Street, legally described as Plan 152-3644, Block 22, Lots 17 and 18 as presented in closed session during the February 13th, 2024 regular council meeting.
Thank you. I'll accept the motion. Would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, I think this is a great decision, obviously, to sell the property. This land has sat vacant for quite some time, unmarketed, and we've sat on it for a few years. It'll breathe new life into a pocket of vacant land in basically what is the middle of Fort Saskatchewan. So I'm happy to support the motion. I think the plan that was presented in closed session is definitely justifiable and encouraged for the housing product needs of Fort Saskatchewan on the heels of a Heartland Housing presentation identifying the demand for this type of rental units.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll open it up for discussion and debate. I'm just going to say I will support the motion. I'm glad to hear that you did put that redevelopment brief into our package, because I actually was here when that development brief was created, and at that point in time the new Dr. Turner Lodge was supposed to be a foundational piece to that area, creating beauty, warmth, and creating a neighborhood so that it was really inclusive with walkability and mixed use and everything. So I'm confident in what you've told me, so on that basis, I will support this motion. Okay, not seeing anyone else. Anything on close? All right, the motion is now closed. Please cast your vote. And that is carried unanimously. Congratulations. Go forward, sell it, and get something built on there. Help our downtown grow. All right, the next item, are there any notice of motions? Not seeing any. Are there any points of interest? No, not seeing any, other than we had an excellent International Women's Day at Families First, and we truly discovered you cannot smudge in that building, because we had a wonderful visit from the fire department who took very good care of us. Any councillor inquiries of administration? No? All right, I will entertain a motion to go in camera as per the items listed as FOIP. Councillor Nguyen.
Yeah, I'll move that council enter in camera for items to be discussed under the Freedom of Information and Privacy Act.
Protection. Thank you. Motion is now closed. Please cast your vote. And that is carried unanimously. Thank you very much.